Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Today is the 6th of November. On Sunday the 6th of November in 1887, there was a meeting called after midday mass in St Mary's Hall, 67 East Rose Street, Carlton in Glasgow. That was the day that Celtic FC was born, and it's been a grand old team to watch over the years. Celtic are always at the forefront of causing mayhem and always upsetting the Sevconians as much as we can. Martin O'Neill has hit out at Rangers and said, "You're just making excuses up." We could sit and go through various moments of the game, but it's over and done with. Celtic won 3-1. Rangers are making excuses up for their shite play. Let's just face it. It's great that Martin O'Neill has just put it where it is. He says, look, Austin Trussy, he says, yeah, he was lucky not to see red, but Rangers should never had a penalty. Celtic should have had a penalty later on when a Rangers player clearly puts his hand out to put the ball out. Never even looked at VAR. And then there was the dubious tackle on Johnny Kenny that wasn't even looked at by Nick Walsh. So if anyone should be making statements and if anyone should be going to the SFA, it should have been Celtic. O'Neill's convinced that Rangers should not have been given a penalty kick after Tony Ralston's controversial handball. The fallout and the flashpoints, and look, it's always the same with that lot. They make it the fact that they're victims. They're never defeated. They're always cheated. And it's been that way for many years now, because they cannot handle Celtic being in a dominant situation. And Neil says, I'm delighted to be here and to get one more win over Rangers. That's the best news in the world. For God's sake, take it on. Whatever sorts of excuses they make, two things. I don't think it was a penalty. I think the Trusty was lucky to stay on the field. I haven't seen those things back, but it's fine. That's my points. We're now on to a great European fixture tonight. Celtic have landed in Denmark. Many Celtic fans have landed in Denmark also late yesterday. We move on. We put it to bed because it's more important in who we think may play tonight more than anything. But there has been a shock candidate in the Celtic news for the Celtic manager's job. And I've got to say, if this is the level of manager that we're going to go for, I think that we're heading for Ronnie Deila years. We're definitely heading for Ronnie Deila years in management. And I always did say, it's okay, they're a big club. I always did say that after Brendan Rodgers, and although the Brendan Rodgers style of football was starting to grate on a lot of people, where we go next as a football club, it was great bringing Martin O'Neill in, and we're riding the wave of excitement and everything, but the club have to really get this next appointment right, because bringing in a player that played at Celtic back in 2011, 2012 or something, that used to be assistant to Ronnie Deila in America, it's not going to cut it with me. Sorry. If Juarez is seriously a contender for the Celtic manager's job, we're fucked. I'm going to say it like it is. And this is the problem that we've got. I'm going to try and change it and be more positive towards the game today. But if he is seriously on the list of contenders for the Celtic job, seriously, we're going to go back to Ronnie Deila years. And you can see that happening You can see that happening, especially with the people that we have in charge. You know, the fact that Craig Bellamy said that it's not on his radar. Other managers have said that no, they've not been contacted. It's Celtic either need to come out and make a statement, and at this point, I would rather have Sean Maloney to the end of the season. I would definitely have Sean Maloney to the end of the season. I just noticed there was no ads on that. Even better. Yeah. Sean Maloney is a player at Celtic that was fantastic. He's went through, if it is to be Sean Maloney till the end of the season, at least we can accept that. At least we're playing a decent style of football. At least we're, if Martin O'Neill's going to stay in and around the building, maybe not on the training pitch to the end of the season, but if he's just there to help Sean Maloney, so be it. But the next manager, if Celtic aren't going to push the boat out, and they're not going to try and bring in a big name as it comes with managers. Do you know, the last 10 years could be the most successful modern time that we're ever going to have. And then it's going to be, maybe Brendan Rodgers was right, caretaker manager, just someone to come in. But anyway, we move on, because we have an important... Is there any chance of us getting the Club Brugge manager? I'm not too sure, Jed. I'm not too sure. Nobody knows. This is the reality of the situation. At least when it came to Celtic looking at Eddie Howe, it was spoken about, and that dragged on for far too long. I now see Celtic, and this is going back to the people that run the club, I now see Celtic going into another period of getting dragged out as manager. Do you know, if there isn't an outstanding candidate out there, if there isn't someone that has got experience, that would like to play in European football, would like to manage in European football, that has a good pedigree, that is a standout, that's saying, yep, I wouldn't mind that job, then just leave it with Martin O'Neill, because he'll terrorise Scottish football. He would terrorise Scottish football to the end of the season, him and Sean Maloney. And the Rangers fans hate the fact that Martin O'Neill's back. Absolutely detest the fact that Martin O'Neill's back, because they know that he was such an important manager for us, and he basically set up Celtic to go on the run that we've been on. Do you know, he drew a line under the dominance of that lot, and he was like, no, this is Celtic's time. But you need a manager that has that motivation, that experience, that thing that Martin O'Neill has, that believes in players. And that's where we're at. But anyway, we'll forget about it, because Celtic it's their birthday today. We should never forget the fact that this is the day that ultimately was the first meeting. This is the day that Celtic were born, brought into existence. And you think back, 1887, the 6th of November 1887, the first meeting that was held for the formation of a football club to help the needy. That's what it was built on. And it's great to see to this day that you have the Celtic Foundation, and it's great to see one of our most emphatic midfielders, the maestro, back at Celtic Park, back doing stuff with the Celtic Foundation. We need to just remember that as much as the turmoil that there is at the club just now, with the board, with the manager's situation. There's a lot of people out there that are a lot worse off than us, and it's great to see the fact that Celtic still puts in so much money to charity, and that the Celtic Foundation Christmas appeal has already kicked off. So make sure this Christmas, and I know it's hard out there for everyone just now, money is tight, but make sure that you look after yourself going into this unbelievable period. There's a lot of stress on people to buy Celtic merchandise. There's a lot of stress on people to buy stuff that they can't afford. Live within your means and be happy, and make sure that all around you are happy, because that's what Celtic are about. And at the end of the day, as long as this man goes out and makes sure that we win tonight, if he gets a result tonight, I agree, no more potential. Ronnie Dyler was enough of a nightmare. Go for a high level candidate and spend the money to get them. The board need to take long term. Martinelli was taken to a European final before, so it's a no-brainer. But he's not a spring chicken. Do you know what I mean? He's 73-year-old. I'm of an age where, and God forsake this never happens, but I'm of an age where I can remember an ex-Celtic manager having a heart attack at the side of the pitch when he was Scotland manager, and sadly passed away. I never want to see that happen to another manager. I'm not saying that it would ever happen to Martin O'Neill, but you need to take his age into consideration. You do need to take his age into consideration, and maybe that's why Sean Maloney isn't a bad idea in the long term. But anyway, we move on from that. Would you take a draw tonight? Definitely. That would be it would be a massive, massive result if Celtic were to get a draw tonight. When you think about the positioning that they are in the table, don't even want to look at the league table, but when you look at the game tonight and you look at Midtjylland and where they are, they have scored 8 goals in 3 games. They've only conceded 2 goals. That's the reality of the situation. Celtic are sitting on a goal difference of -1. A goal difference of -1. It's not good. It's not good at all. And it should be a worry. Should be a worry going into the game. Because at the end of the day, this is the reality of the situation that Celtic is. This is our level for the moment. It's a level that we think that we should be doing a lot better in than what we really are doing. The league position of the Europa table doesn't lie. A draw would be a huge, massive, massive achievement as far as I'm concerned. I think that, it's not going to be easy. But then again, when you look at Braga, you look at Lyon, Dynamo Zagreb, these are all teams that Celtic have beaten in the past. You would expect Celtic. My expectations of Celtic going into the Europa this season, before we knew we were out of the Champions League, if we didn't make the Champions League, and if the board had got their finger out, my expectation for Celtic would to be top 8 of the Europa, because that's where we should see ourselves. We shouldn't see ourselves away down in 21st position. But then again, could a team that was once the worst team ever in the Champions League, yes, they hold the accolade of the worst team ever, and could they now hold the accolade of the worst team ever in the Europa? You think about it, that's the bigger downfall than anything. I mean, they can talk about penalties and all sorts of nonsense that went on at the game at the weekend and players being sent off. But the reality for them is they've been at the higher end of the table at the Europa for such a long time. You know, they've laughed about the fact that Celtic can't get through to the knockout phase. They're not even going to see a knockout phase. And that'll cheer you up this morning. If there's any negativity, but can seriously Celtic get a result tonight? Having been on 4 points, we've drawn one, we've lost one, and we've won one in the Europa this season. To get a draw, would it be enough? I don't think a draw would be enough to get us. I mean, it would put us on the 5 point mark. Martin O'Neill reckons that we can get through in the top 24 with 10 points. Or maybe he's thinking, do you know what? Can we ultimately finish top 8? I want us to finish top 8. Just because then we don't have to go through a playoff place. Because I think, you know, as good as we are, well, maybe under Martin O'Neill we could actually win a game. I'm off to work, start at 9 o'clock today. Have a nice day. It's not the Champions League. Yeah, I know it's not the Champions League. And that's where we should be. But we're in the Europa. We should be way higher in the table. Way higher. Anyway, that's enough of that this morning. Let's look at the team that Martin O'Neill could possibly pick tonight. Even Martin O'Neill said, look, I don't know the team. We're unsure of the team that we're going to pick tonight. When you're thinking, do you not just go with the same team as you had at the weekend? But then again, if there's a couple of players that are carrying little niggles, Martin O'Neill's maybe thinking, look, this is going to be a bit of a war of a game tonight. Martin O'Neill said the last experience as a European Celtic manager came in December 2004 when his side drew 0-0 at home to AC Milan. Nearly 21 years later, the Irishman is in the dugout again this tonight against Midtjylland. The Danish side are top of the table in the competition with the opening 3 games. Celtic have had 1-1, 1 draw and 1 defeat in their 3 games. On the back of victories in the league, they have drawn in the league. I wouldn't take that into consideration, the fact that Midtjylland drew on Monday night, because the game that they drew on Monday night, they were the dominant team, and they were very much the dominant team in that game, although they conceded a goal around about, I think it was around about the 30th minute. If Celtic can do that, you can put them under pressure. Their home fans are a very noisy bunch, and it's not going to be easy. Martin O'Neill says he thought they were great against Nottingham Forest away from home. Forest side that are actually quite physical themselves, not only at set pieces, but it was an excellent game. It was an excellent evening. Midtjylland won it 3-2. It's no surprise that they've got full points from their 3 games. We've played well in the last 2 games, said Martin O'Neill. We've got a few goals, so that helps us. But today will be a different ball game altogether. The players that Martin O'Neill has at his disposal, I mean, he will go with the normal keeper in Kasper Schmeichel in goals. That's a given. He will go with Kasper Schmeichel in goals. The back 4, I would have loved to have had Alistair Johnson available for this, because I think if Alistair Johnson was available, it would have given us a much better chance. We're going to be going with Scales and Trusty. Welsh is out on loan. Cameron Carter-Vickers is out for long term. Marcelo Sarachi. Do you go with him in front of Kieran Tierney? That's the big decision that Martin O'Neill, and I think that's the one problem area. You're going to have to go with Tony Ralston over Colby Donovan, I think. I think that bringing Colby Donovan, whilst was good, I think that ultimately this game you've got to go with Tony Ralston. I think Tony Ralston is the way to go. The midfield, well, who do we bring in midfield for this one? Benji can score goals, but he doesn't have it all in the midfield. I mean, you could play Benji on the wing, I don't know. Arne Engels is a must start for me. Arne Engels must start beside Callum McGregor. Do not start Rio Hatate. And I think it'll be, I mean, Rio can go and scream and shout all he wants, but Rio Hatate is not performing the way that he should. He hasn't performed for a long time. And I think that, does Paulo Bernardo get a shout? If we don't start playing Paulo Bernardo this season, I think that there is a good chance that Paulo Bernardo, but then again, maybe there's people at Celtic going, just hang on, trust the process, because once Rio's left the building, you'll get more of a chance in the first team. But then again, we're in November, and I can't recall a game that Paulo Bernardo's even been brought in this season. So it's going to be a difficult one. But the forward three, do you start with Johnny Kenny over Callum Osmond? You're going to start Tenekte on one side and Daisen Maeda on the other. I think you go with Johnny Kenny. I mean, Johnny Kenny is a bit more physical than Callum Osmond. And I think that we need that little bit of pace and physicality that Johnny Kenny can give you. And I still look at Johnny Kenny and I'm thinking, what a turnaround and what a growth spurt he had over the last couple of seasons. And he's maturing into possibly a good striker for Celtic. We're not going to, Martin O'Neill's keeping us all on our toes here and saying, look, they're just young guys. Callum Osmond, he's only 19. Yeah, he's had a good game in 25 minutes, but it was more than a full game. It was he's come in, he's scored against Rangers. That's done good for him, but just calm down, and that's what I like about Martin O'Neill. James Forrest, does he start? He's got a lot of European pedigree. Do you start James Forrest before Daisen Maeda? Do you put Tenekte on instead of James Forrest? It's a lot that Martin O'Neill has to think about tonight. And we will be live an hour and a half before the game tonight, when Martin O'Neill will announce, Celtic will announce Martin O'Neill's first team in Europe for 21 years. It's unbelievable to think that we're turning back the clock. Can Martin O'Neill turn back the clock on the pitch and get us back to winning ways? Helen says that she'd play Bernardo. Evening from Vietnam. Ray, are you getting up in the middle of the night? In the middle of the night, I'll be watching Celtic. Can they win in Europe? I hope the power doesn't go so I can watch the game tonight. You're about to be hit by a typhoon. Puts things into perspective, doesn't it? It does put things into perspective when, my missus has work colleagues in the Philippines, and they generally get hit by this kind of crazy weather and they lose internet and everything. Same team as Rangers, and then 2-1 says Ray coming in from Vietnam. Do you think it'd be 2-1 would be a massive result? An absolutely massive result. Not just in terms of what it could do for Celtic's season, but what it would do for Martin O'Neill. Pushing us up the table. It could get us right up in the table. I know there's other games going to be out, but what if it put us up into the sort of top 12? That would be unbelievable. And then you would be starting to think, well, hold a minute. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's just see if we can get the win tonight. It's a game changer, especially when it comes to the managerial position at Celtic. And I think that maybe that's what the hierarchy at Celtic are doing. Because, if you get the win tonight, and then you change the manager, and then the manager goes on to the next game, a new manager goes on to the next game and doesn't get a win, and doesn't get the chance to push us up into that top 8, the Celtic fans then turn on the board even more. And there is going to still be a sustained campaign against the board. But you're thinking to yourself, do you know, what if Martin O'Neill gets the win tonight? Pushes us away up the table. Say we end up tonight in 15th position in the table. And you're thinking to yourself, can he do it? Can the old geezer at 73-year-old turn back the clock for Celtic, get us up there in the top 8, and push us further in Europe than we've been in a long, long time? Because then the cries for Martin O'Neill to stay on longer, it's hard for you to say, no, we have the Celtic fans. The Celtic fans then say, look, you can't get rid of O'Neill. It's like going into a casino. And this is a true story. I was playing, I can't even remember what it's called, but you've got to get 21 on the cards. And I'm sitting at a table, and I'm sitting all night. I'm sitting for a few hours, right? And I'm on a winning streak. And there's a little, I would remember it, because there's a little Chinese guy. I mean, I'm only betting like 10, 20 pound a game. This wee Chinese guy comes in, and he goes all in, everyone. £100, everyone. And he loses. Everyone. And I'm sitting watching him. And he's looking at me, putting like £5 bets on, £10 bets on, and winning every game. Every game. Consistently just keeping on winning. And he's putting this big money on, trying to be the big I am, but he's losing. And I'm looking at him, and I'm reckoning he's lost about £700 by this point. And then it's about half an hour later, I turn around and I'm like, right, that's me, I'm done. And the card guy is raging. He's looking at me and he's like, you don't get up from a winning table. You do not get up from a winning table. And I'm like, yeah, fucking, I don't give a shit. I'm not a gambler. I'll do it on my rules. My rules. If I want to get up from a winning table, I get up from a winning table and walk away with my winnings. You're not keeping me here to start tune back into my winning mentality and my dividends. I've just been, I was told, look, just go in with enough money that you want to lose on the night. I came away in profit. Celtic would be crazy. But then again, we might get absolutely gubbed tonight. And we might be sitting thinking, going, do you know what? We need to get another manager in quick. That's the way that football is. Yeah, the football does kick off tonight. It is an early kick-off tonight. It is on TNT Sports 2. Kick-off at 5:45 Celtic Park time. I think we'll see a totally different side tonight. Young midfielders to bring home the win. Could this be the day that we win away? Kenny will get 20 season for us or more this season. Whoa. Do you think so? I mean, I called that Adam Ida would score 20 goals for us, and I was still slated, even though Adam Ida did score. I hope Johnny Kenny does score 20 goals for us, because it will definitely give the next manager something to look at. Bernardo won't get a look, unfortunately. Nah, he won't. I don't know what the situation is there. Just imagine Martin O'Neill finally bagged the European Cup for Celtic. Don't, because if we win tonight, and then say we win our next game, and it gets us up into the top 8, and say then we automatically qualify. And maybe it is. Do you know, I've said it, there's a romance about Celtic, and maybe there is a case of, do you know what, there's unfinished business. And maybe Dermot Desmond's thinking that as well. Maybe he's thinking, look, there's only been one man in the last 20 years. We've thrown money at people. Gordon Strachan. Neil Lennon, Brendan Rodgers, but not one of them has come close to this man. And maybe Dermot's sitting there thinking, let's give him one last crack at the whip. Let's just give Martin one last crack at the whip. And maybe secretly it's Dermot going, yeah, maybe we should have backed you more in 2003, Martin, 2004. And maybe it's a roundabout way of apologising to Martin for not believing in his philosophy 20 years ago. And a draw under the circumstances would be good. We can do it. Let's get the positivity. What is the story with Bernardo? No idea. Today, top 16, baby steps. Brilliant. Typhoon incoming. Man worried about not getting to the game. We definitely need to start getting points on the board and climb that table. Yeah, we do that. Well, DD pushed the boat out far too much and returned with a rubber dinghy. Roger Rat. Big shout out to Stephen Johnson from JEL. 3-1. 3-1. I don't want to do predictions for this game because I think it's going to be too close. Just my opinion, Bernardo is wasted in my opinion. He's better than Engels. He's not better than Engels because his delivery for corners, Arne Engels' delivery from corners, there's no one at Celtic that when Arne Engels drops it right on the 6-yard box, right on the penalty spot, right inside the 6-yard box, no one else at Celtic can do it. We've tried it with other players. Arne Engels is a way up there with his delivery. Can't understand why he doesn't play something to do with Strachan. Strachan? No, I don't think so. Don't think so. Don't ever underestimate the power of St. Martin. The best manager, the best football brain. Yeah, Martin O'Neill, he's not an elite manager, is he? Oh, Jesus. Who was it that said that our ex-manager was an elite manager anyway? If Martin gets us to the win tonight, we need him full-time, and only my opinion, says Scott. I think the cries for keeping Martin O'Neill, if we win tonight, it will be very, very hard for the board to convince Celtic fans that a new manager is the way forward at this point. Yes, at the end of the season, maybe. Yes, at the end of the season, we do need a younger manager. But then again, you're going to be... A lot of people will say... I mean, Sean Maloney's come out and said, look, I'm not interested in coaching at Celtic. I'm not interested. And maybe this is him just downplaying his prospects of being in the coaching staff. Maybe Sean Maloney's been really clever here, coming straight out off the bat and saying, no, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm happy to go back to my job managing the players, being the loans manager, being in and around the club. That's got a bit more longevity to it. He's not a daft wee laddie. He's not a daft wee laddie at all. And the fact that his coaching ability seems to be up there, way up there with whatever John Kennedy's done at his time at Celtic. I would actually go on to say that Sean Maloney has done more, and this is a big, big shout, but I would say that Sean Maloney's done more to make Celtic better in his short week and a half at Celtic than John Kennedy did in 20 years. And that's a massive statement. John Kennedy was a good coach. A lot of players mentioned John Kennedy when they left Celtic. They picked out John Kennedy sometimes over the manager. So I know that that's a massive shout to say that, Sean Maloney has done more. I think he has. You look at the evidence on the pitch, and it's Sean Maloney that seems to be taking the training the exact same way that John Kennedy took the training under Ange Postecoglou, and Ange said, look, I have nothing to do with training. It's all John. But as I think Martin will be here at the end of the season, he'll mate. Yeah, I think so. But it's a funny old game, young man. Yeah, that's a Martin O'Neill saying, isn't it? And it is a funny old game. We will win tonight, and then announce Martin as the new manager. Will we? I don't want it to be a reactionary. I mean, Celtic are far too reactionary as it is. They're not forward planning. I mean, I said a couple of weeks ago, if they know that Brendan Rodgers is not going to be here at the end of the season, we should be looking at managers now. We should have had a short list of managers. But it comes with the caveat that if Brendan Rodgers leaves at the end of the season, you have to make sure that the managers that we're watching have had successful seasons. Because if you start watching someone now and they have a complete crap season, where does he fall in that pecking order? But it seems to me that Celtic have went into this completely not even forward planning and looking at potential managers. And if it is the fact that we're looking at Juarez to come in as Celtic manager, it's backwards. 4:45 a.m. it's Sydney kickoff. Good thing I punted work for tomorrow. Yeah, it's a good thing. Is that if Celtic should have the mindset of Champions League playing again, yeah, they should do. But the fact is we haven't this season, and we know why. And there's no use going back over old ground, and we've got to look under what Martin O'Neill can do. If Martin O'Neill gets the kind of performance out these players in a European context tonight, it's going to be stuff that dreams are made of. If Kenny gets the service, he's got the last 2 games. The lad could have 30. He scored 3 in 2 games. Yeah, he has that. Can he score tonight? Slate me, but I'm sticking by prediction. He's got 3 already. Can he score tonight? Could you imagine if he scores tonight? It would be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Right, I'm just checking out some of these comments. I'm going to say I want rid of Dermot, plus the board. Been caught sleeping with Strachan Jr. What? Sincerely hope Martin O'Neill keeps Bernardo. He's a great player. He's got a manager. I have no idea what's going on with the whole Bernardo situation. I mean, he does. There is a lot of Celtic players that seem to be in front of him in the squad for whatever reason. I can only think that the people at the club think that Bernardo is a similar type of player to Callum McGregor. And that's the only reason that Paulo Bernardo's not getting the game, is because they see Paulo Bernardo as the person that sits in that holding midfield role. Maybe that's the reality of the situation. We've never seen McGregor have to come off and Paulo go in, so I don't know. I mean, Benji can score goals. He brings something different to the game. He's been brought in to potentially sit beside McGregor. Luke McCowan offers you something different going forward, that little bit of physicality, a little bit of dig. Arne Engels, his delivery from corners, from set pieces, phenomenal. You can't drop him. He's way better than Paulo Bernardo when it comes to delivery from corners, and I think that the club will, the coaching staff will see that, if we get a couple of corners, you're wanting Paulo taking the corners, because he drops it right on the box, and Johnny Kenny, poof, into the back of the net. There you go. There's your breakfast. But for me, the one that needs dropped is Rio Hatate, because Rio Hatate's not done it for so long in these big games, and especially in a European context. It's unbelievable. There's only going to be one goal in it. If there is only the one goal in it, hopefully it is for Celtic. But Bernardo scored the goal from a corner and it got chopped off. Can Engels do that? Oy. I'd be happy to keep Martin if pressure is shared as a collective and he's comfy with life. I think that's my concern for Martin, that maybe that's why he has brought in all the staff that has been brought into Celtic. You know, these younger, enthusiastic backroom staff, a complete refresh. And to be fair, it's been long overdue. It's been long overdue, a refreshment of the backroom staff at Celtic, because we'd went stale. We went really stale, and that's what kind of, with the backroom staff admitting and just keeping playing to the philosophy of the manager. At some point, someone had to turn around, surely, to the previous manager and say, look, this isn't working. It's not working. Ray said he was elite. Thank you for the defence and stay back. We'll win 1-0. I think so. Caden's in the house this morning. Can't have asked for a better timing or opportunity for the appointment. And the hottest managerial CV in Europe, Kudson, has to be the next coach. Just as a statement to the rest of the clubs. Can we get him though? Can we get him? And maybe it's right. Maybe he's only 2 or 3 games away from the end of his season, and it doesn't look like he's going to win the league. So maybe he is the man to come in. I don't know. I'm happy with the draw tonight, says Chris. Not easy to win in Europe. I've no doubts Martin O'Neill's team will have a go. None at all. Martin's watched this team. They stand us in good stead. I watched them the other evening play against their rivals at the top of the table, and they are a good team. We need to defend. We'll need to defend like we did in Italy last year. And I think that it could be one of those games like we had in Italy last year, and I think it will be. We were under the cosh. We had to defend for our life. It's going to be one of those games tonight. And maybe, do you know what? Maybe a 0-0 draw is a fantastic result. But Celtic have got pace and power. Celtic have got the diagonal ball now. Celtic aren't just going to try and play out from the back and try and, play fucking and let a team get back and defend. No, they've got a manager that goes, you know what? See when you're camped in, just fucking a wee quick diagonal ball over to a winger. And then you strikers fire right into that box. Quick ball in, fucking goal. Come on, we can do it. Engels playing in a pivot with Kalmak has now shown his value. Yep, is that. Yes, we all know that he was the problem. But yep. Just take a pill that says positive thinking, no ifs, no buts. Yeah. Celtic can do it. Not sure about that, Baz. Kennedy was there for 27 years. Yeah, he was there for 27 years. And he went stale. I think. Sean shouts, I want the job. Sean deserves recognition. I think Maloney does deserve recognition for what he's done to the team. Billy O'Neill used to say Celtic had a bit of a fairy tale about them. He did. And they do. You ask any of the Lisbon Lions. Celtic over the years have all 67 fairy tale, 88 fairy tale, winning the double in your centenary year. It was unfancied Celtic to win the league that year and to win the double, but we've done it. To have went through what we went through in the 1990s and come out in such a good place, because there's not a lot of teams that have the decline that we had in the 1990s. There's not a lot of teams recover from that. Leeds United, for one. Nottingham Forest, well, they're back in Europe. But if you look at Leeds United and the fantastic team that they had, and the European pedigree, and the Scottish players that they had to make them successful. And then even to this day, Leeds United still sell more merchandise than Celtic, which is phenomenal, because they've never been in Europe or anything for a long, long time. You know, they've never been at the higher end of stuff for a long time. But Celtic, Dare to Dream, 2003, yep, we get to the final, cheated, as Martin O'Neill says, still has nightmares about it, still has the name Deco running through his mind. Can we do it tonight? I think we can. Make sure you join me an hour. God, I've been on for 46 minutes this morning. Make sure that you join me an hour and a half on my way to set all the lives up for tonight. Baz, no way. How many trophies? I'm just running through this. Don't forget that the board need to go. Yep. A wise one once said, himself. Calmart's goal against the Zombie was sensational. He played like a champion under Neil, as does Forrest. Any midfielders should be picked before Hatate. Yeah, they should that. That is me done and dusted for this morning. I hope you have a fantastic day. Make sure you join me an hour and a half before kickoff. Kickoff is at 5:45 Celtic Park time. There will be the announcement of the team as normal. Come on, you boys in green.